I am J.R. Pike. I'm the Senior Cost Accounting and Central Effort Manager in the Office of Sponsored Programs. I'm part of the Cost Analysis and Compliance team, and so I'd first of all like to thank everyone for joining both in person and virtually, and also the OSP operations team for putting this event together. This is a huge undertaking for them. They do an awesome job, and I'm very appreciative that they've allowed me to come in, talk about reviewing and resolving effort tasks today. So I mentioned that I'm part of the cost analysis and compliance team. That's comprised of two parts. Today we'll be talking mostly about the effort team and what they do. And so this is an overview of our team. Brian Bertelshofer is our director. Hello, Brian. Of course, myself, Latoya Smith is our lead cost accounting central effort analyst. She splits time between the two parts of our team. And then we have four central effort analysts who primarily work day to day on approving EPARs, PATs, and then working effort certification. So the team works really hard to make sure we meet deadlines. We do process over 20,000 EPARs plus PATs, and we're responsible for ensuring that roughly 18,000 effort statements are certified per year. So thank you to the central effort analysts, Latoya, and the rest of the team for working hard to make sure everything stays on track and we're able to get things done. Today, we're going to talk about a brief overview of effort and the effort certification process. And we're going to also gain a better understanding of what causes effort tasks during the certification process and how to resolve those in the eCert system. And then overall, we're going to try to help effort coordinators work through the certification process more efficiently and understand more about what's going on there. So we'll first cover that brief overview of effort. And this is going to be very brief to cover some of the foundations of effort. If you want to see this in more detail, I have done two other presentations that cover these slides in detail. So you can find those on the OSP Symposium website. Those presentations were done in 2020 and 2022, if you want to know more about the upcoming slides. So first, we're going to cover what effort actually is. So effort is the portion of time spent on a given professional activity expressed as a percentage of the total professional activity for which an individual is employed by the university. So what that person was hired to do, it's all encompassing in effort, and that's inclusive of research, teaching, administration, or other activities. And you'll notice that time is in bold there because we really want to drive the point home that time drives the effort calculation. There's a common misconception that salary dollars drive that, but it's actually time, and we'll discuss that a little more as we move forward. So things to consider and remember when we're calculating effort. Effort is calculated based on a reasonable estimate of time. We understand as a central office that our researchers are not tracking every minute of every day. We don't expect them to do that. The federal government doesn't expect them to do that either. And we incorporate a 5% variance within the effort certification process to account for that reasonable estimate. While we don't expect them to track every minute of every day, we do expect that they pay close enough attention to how they're spending their time that they could produce a reasonable estimate of that when it comes time to certify effort. The calculation process is also not based on a standard 40-hour work week. It's based on the total hours worked for that individual. So we're talking about individuals, meaning one person's total hours worked or total effort is going to be different than another. So you have to make sure you're looking at that on an individual basis. Total effort must equal 100%. So we mentioned before that effort is all encompassing. And so all parts of that person's responsibilities for the university should be included in that. There are a few exclusions, and that's based off of the UNC definition of effort. So any payments for overload, additional duties, stipends or compensation for outside activities, such as consulting, are not going to be included. So that person may be paid out for those things, but the ecrt system is set up in such a way that those dollars are not going to be pulled in, and you won't see them represented on the effort statement. Here we have an example of how effort would be calculated. So it's helpful for me. I'm a visual person. I wanted to include this so that we could talk a little more about how time drives the calculation. So here we have employee one. They have their base salary and supplement. When calculating effort, you want to be sure that you're using the total institutional base salary to begin your calculation of effort. It's important to note that that's inclusive of the base salary along with any supplement. So employee one here, they have a base salary of $100,000 plus a supplement of $20,000, which gives a total institutional base salary of $120,000, which is what we would use for proposal purposes and for effort certification purposes. So when we're talking about calculating effort and effort certification, we would be working with these folks and asking them, how much time are you spending, total time are you spending working over a certain 6-month period. In this example, that person, their reasonable estimate of the time they spent working is 1,200 hours. And we mentioned that this is a percentage of total hours over all of the activities that person's working. So now that we know the total hours, we have to break that out over all of the activities that person actually does for the university. And so in this case, employee one committed effort to 2 awards and various non-sponsored responsibilities. So now we ask them, okay, out of the 1,200 hours, how much time do you spend on award A, award B, and your non-sponsored? So that person, employee one, comes back and says, okay, I spent 600 hours on award A, 400 hours on award B, and 200 hours on non-sponsored. So when you're reporting effort, all of your non-sponsored responsibilities are going to roll up onto one line. So the fact that they had various responsibilities, but they're reporting 200 hours for all of those is no concern there. Now we need to determine that percentage of effort allocated to each of those activities. So the way we do that is we take the hours devoted to a single activity, divide that by the total hours to get a percentage. And in this case, 600 hours divided by 1,200 hours is 50%. And that's the actual effort that we would expect them to certify on their effort statement. So when you're looking at the effort statement, that would be in the certified effort column. And then, as I said before, time drives the effort calculation. So if they certified at 50% on award A, we would expect the salary to match that. If the salary is lower or higher than that, we would then need to submit a PAT to make that adjustment after the fact. So we're comparing actual effort to the second line there, or the second calculation, which would be the salary charged to each activity. And you would get that by using your institutional base salary multiplied by the effort percentage that we calculated based off of the hours worked. And so that the salary part would be the computed effort percentage column on the effort statement. Again, we would want to adjust the salary dollars to match the certified effort. Here we have the effort life cycle. This is a quick diagram. I'll explain a little bit about this, but again, we could talk about this in way more detail. But on the left-hand side there, preparing the proposal budget, that's going to be your pre-award stage. So when you're preparing your proposal, we as an institution are estimating the expenses and effort that are going to be committed to that particular award should we receive it. As we move to the right there, we've received the award, and now those estimates that we've given the sponsor become a commitment. So in the middle there, we're at the post-award stage where we're actually charging the award, salary, other expenses. and we're also committing effort. And so by billing the sponsor and submitting progress reports and that type of thing, we're communicating with them what's happening in the post-award process. But we then need a way to attest that we've actually upheld our commitment from that proposal budget. So effort certification comes into play then, and effort certification provides a way for the individual that committed the effort and then the university to have a common language to speak with auditors or sponsors and attest that, yes, we actually did uphold our commitment to you. This person expended this amount of effort. And so that's a very brief overview of the effort lifecycle. Certifying effort is important for that reason, to be able to show that we are upholding those commitments. So now we're going to move on to the certification timeline. Effort certification at the university happens biannually, and it covers the 2 6-month periods from January to June and July to December. After salary is captured and efforts committed during those periods, we have a 60-day window in which effort statements can be certified. And that 60-day window for January to June occurs from September to October, and for July to December from March to April. Just prior to those two 60-day windows, there's a 14-day pre-review period in which effort coordinators are able to review statements and go ahead and start working with their researchers to ensure that they're making any changes that need to be made before the start of the 60-day window in which effort statements would open and could actually be certified. During that 60-day period, there are escalation procedures that occur on day 31 of the period. If effort statements are not certified, an email goes out to primary effort coordinators just saying, hey, can you help us get these certified? 2 weeks later, another email will go out to departmental directors, department chairs, requesting the same thing, letting them know, hey, we need to move this forward. And then any other statements not certified after a week after sending that second email, another email is going to go out to the research dean requesting that they step in and give us a hand, because any effort statement that remains uncertified after that 60-day period will result in all payroll and benefits being moved to a non-sponsor source. So there's a very large negative impact, or could be, to the department if you fail to get those certified. We do understand that there may be some adjustments that have to happen after the certification period to true up effort statements. And we allow the following month after those two 60-day periods to do that. But it's important to note that once that 60-day window closes, true ups are the only thing that can be submitted to adjust those statements. There are very few reasons that we would allow changes to those closed effort certification periods once they close. So it's very important to make sure you get your changes in and that folks certify correctly. Now we're going to move over to effort tasks. We'll discuss that and how to resolve those. So effort tasks are generated when the certifier completes certification and enters a certified effort percentage, which is the time part that varies when compared to the computed effort percentage, which is the salary piece on the effort statement. Those tasks are generated and can only be reviewed by the primary effort coordinator. However, when we're talking about effort tasks, it's important, if you're an effort coordinator, to understand the process and to be able to help out your primary effort coordinator. And you shouldn't exclude the effort coordinator from the process just because the primary effort coordinator is the only one who can see these and take action on them. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. The purpose of the effort task is for the eCert system to alert the primary effort coordinator that there is a change, and to allow the primary effort coordinator to review that, ask any questions, and then make sure that they agree with the change before they move forward. So they'd be able to address any questions or concerns there. when effort tasks are generated, there are two distinct scenarios that are created when there's a variance on the statement. I mentioned before that we allow a 5% variance because of the reasonable time estimate. And that's going to be the distinct difference between these two. So you could have an effort task, which is scenario 1 here, where the variance is less than 5%. And so you're going to handle that one way versus scenario 2, where you have a variance that's greater than 5%. And we'll discuss the appropriate way to resolve those tasks in each of those scenarios. The first step in resolving these tasks for the primary effort coordinator is going to be to actually find the effort tasks. And this is going to be the same for each scenario. So what we're looking at here is the home page in the ecrt system. So the primary effort coordinator would log in, they'll be on their home page, and then there's 3 tabs there. And the tab that you would want to click on is the effort task tab. When that comes up, you would then see there are links to the left under the type column. When you click that link, it's going to take you to the effort task where you'll be able to review that and see the options for resolving it. So that's how you would view your effort task list. And now I'll jump into scenario 1. This again is a scenario where the effort statement was certified with less than a 5% variance. So the first thing to look at here is in the top right, that's highlighted in that blue or purplish color there. The status of the statement is certified, not processed. That's your first indication that an effort task is has been created. So when you see something that's certified, not processed, and this is where your effort coordinator would come in with helping the primary effort coordinator, is they could be looking through the folks that certified at the statuses. And if they were to see that, they could go ahead and start asking some questions and reviewing the variances to determine why that happened. Are there any concerns about it? And then report to the primary effort coordinator and make their job a little easier. So that's how you could work this from a department standpoint, depending on your personnel and how you're set up. But when you see that status, certified, not processed, that should clue you in, okay, there's probably an effort task for this. And then you would want to go ahead and look at your certified effort column. And these are highlighted in the red box there. Certified effort column, that's going to be the time piece that the certifier says, hey, I spent 4% of my time in this case on that award 5114904. And then you're comparing that to the computed effort percentage, which is a representation of salary that was charged to that award. So salary for that particular activity divided by total salary on the effort statement gives you that percentage there. And as many have probably noted, there is no variance here on this effort statement. And I put this in here as a specific example to show that sometimes the ecrt system is a little quirky, and depending on some things that happened prior to this, it may generate an effort task where there is no variance. And I wanted to put this in here to show that there's no concern about this. And the reason for that is that now that we've moved over to the actual effort task that the primary effort coordinator would review, well, that reformatted and the arrow moved over from my original presentation. So everyone pretend that yellow arrow is over the process button. That's all right. But there's no concern with there not being a variance, because if you look at the cost transfer dollars column, there's nothing there. And we'll talk a little more about that, but when you have something that's 5% or less variance, the ecrt system understands that it's within the allowable variance threshold. And so the option that you're going to have to process this is just going to change the status to certified. So it's not going to require you to make any changes via PAT or anything like that. This particular effort task, when you have the option to process, which is where that yellow arrow should be over the process button, when you see that, this is just the ecrt system letting you know there was a minor change to this. It's within the allowable variance. You should look at it for the purpose of maybe there's a required effort minimum on this award and somebody certified to 49%, but the required effort minimum is 50. So if the sponsor were to see that, it's going to generate questions. So you would want to, in that case, select do not process, and that would reopen the effort statement and then have that person recertify to the appropriate percentage. But at the top of this, there are a couple of things to note. One, you see the status, certified, not processed. Two would be the period of performance. So the system will generate effort tasks and they will stay out there on your list until they're resolved. So if something pops up, that's where you would be able to tell the time period that this actually trying to address. So to continue on with this, the cost transfer dollars, that column could have a dollar amount in it. In this case, it doesn't because this was certified without a variance. That column represents if you were to have to submit a PAT, any adjustment amount that would need to be made and entered on that PAT to true this up. So keep that in mind as we move forward. In this case, we're going to elect to process this. The primary effort coordinator would select that button, and then we would see the status of that statement, which we're looking at the top right-hand side of the effort statement right now. We would see that that certified not processed status would change. And in this screenshot here, that effort statement is under the in progress heading. When we process the effort task, that statement is going to move under historical, which is where you go back and see all of your certified statements. So what happened in the past. It's also going to change the date. So right now it's a 10/31/2022 date. That would be the last day that statement could have been certified. When it's moves into certified status, that date's going to change to the last day of the period of performance. So this date would change to 6/30/2022, and it would move down in between the 12/31/2022 and 12/31/2021. So I just wanted to point that out as a way if you're ever looking for something or you wondered where this was going to move to. That is the next effort statement, and no, you wouldn't be able to, well, you could look at it, but you wouldn't be able to do anything else with it. So in summary, scenario one, what we would do, access your effort task list, determine what the variance is, and then look at the options for processing the task. If the option is to process it, you would know that you're able to move forward with that without making any changes. Once you click process, it's going to change to certified, and you're all set with that. It's going to resolve that task. We'll now move on to scenario two, where you have a task that was certified with a greater than 5 percentage point variance. So again, we're going to look at the effort statement, and the clue to us that there is an effort task would be the status is certified not processed. And when we go and do our variance check for the certified effort versus computed effort, we see that this person certified that they spent 93% of their time on project ID 5125262, and the computed effort, so the salary actually allocated to that activity is 14%. That's greater than a 5 percentage point variance. So we know that this is a different type of effort task that we're going to have to work. And we went into our task list. We're looking at that now, and we're noting that now in the cost transfer dollars column, there are amounts there, and you'll see that on the line where they certified at 93%, there's a positive amount there, because what this is telling us is they spent more of their time there, therefore more dollars should be allocated to that award to get that 14% up to 93%. And on the non-sponsored line, they certified to 0%. They spent none of their time there, and it was at 79%. So they're gonna have to decrease the dollars on that line to get it to reconcile to 0%. The cost transfer dollars column is telling you the exact amount that you should enter on your PAT when you try to true this up, so that you can get those percentages to reconcile. So this is if you're a primary effort coordinator or you're an effort coordinator, knowing that there's an effort task, you could go ahead and ask your primary effort coordinator, hey, can you send me a screenshot of this so I can prepare the PAT? And there's no calculation that you need to do at that point unless you're making other changes. But this is a simple way to be able to enter those numbers on your PAT. So that's a tip or trick that you could use to make this a little more efficient. So we also see here that our yellow arrow, while it is a little bit higher than it was before, is actually over the cost transfer needed button. All right. So in this case, with a greater than 5 percentage point variance, you're going to have the option of cost transfer needed. So the ecrt system knows this is outside of the allowable variance, and it's telling you as a primary effort coordinator, if you agree with this change, you're going to have to do something in the way of a cost transfer to make this right, or within the allowable variance. So if you do your review, you agree that this change is necessary, you're going to select cost transfer needed, with the knowledge that you're going to have to prepare a PAT to true up the effort statement. So now that we've selected the cost transfer needed, we'll see that the status has now changed to certified awaiting cost transfer. Anytime you see a statement that's in certified awaiting cost transfer status, that should clue you in that a PAT should be submitted or should have been submitted. And so it's important to understand that the statement will remain in this status until you submit a PAT to true up the statement. That PAT is fully approved through the approval route, and then it posts into Connect Carolina, and then is picked up by the effort certification system and applied to the statement. So there's a lot that has to happen before you will actually see this status change. Payroll is loaded into the ecrt system over every weekend. So it's possible that you could have a PAT that's approved on Monday, and if it doesn't get picked up that week for whatever reason, it could be 2 weeks before you see that move into the ecrt system. So there are times where it takes a while based off of the PAT schedule and all of that type of thing for these to make it into ecrt. I will touch on true up. So true up is just a fancy way of saying make the computed effort percentage match the certified effort percentage. So you're moving dollars around to reconcile those two percentages. And so we'll move on to looking at how that amount in the cost transfer dollars column was actually created. This is a different example, so the numbers are not the same, but basically what that column is doing is looking at the effort that was certified and the certified effort percentage, and then multiplying that percentage times the grand total to determine what should have been charged to that activity. In this case, it would be 20% on project ID 5033787. And that would equate to $4,225. No dollars were charged there before. The computed effort column is showing $0 there. So we know that we need to move $4,225 from another line on this effort statement to project ID 5033787 in order to get those percentages to reconcile. So that's what that cost transfer dollars column is doing, the calculation behind the scene to get that adjustment. If you're decreasing, you would do the same thing, but you would just find the difference between what was charged and what the new amount should be and move that on your pad. Again, this is the calculation to get those amounts. If you just look at your effort statement or your effort task, it will show you that and simplify it. But I like to put this in here just so you can understand what's going on behind the scenes. So that would be calculating a true up. Also, if you're in a scenario where you're unable to see that effort task for whatever reason, this is how you would determine the amounts to enter on your pad. Carrying on with scenario 2, now we've prepared our PAT to true up the effort statement. We've submitted that. It's been approved. It's posted in Connect Carolina, and it's also been over the weekend where it's picked up and moves into ecrt. The way you would know it's moved into ecrt is that the status would change. And you'll also note that it was in progress before. When it moves into certified process payroll pending status, it's going to move under historical. The reason it does that is there are more steps that need to happen before this will actually impact the effort statement, but those have to happen on our ends. So anytime you see something in this status, it means that our team has an effort task to work. We have two options when a statement is in that certified process payroll pending status. We can review that and we can post it without reopening it for certification. So your true ups are going to fall under that post without reopening option for us, as long as they're done correctly. Because those two, the salary percentage matches the effort percentage, there's no reason for us to reopen that and have them recertify. Everything lines up. So once we select the option to post without reopening, you'll see the status move to certified, and there's nothing else to do on those. The other option that we have is to post and reopen that for certification. So maybe if an effort statement had a project that was added or something like that, and that was not previously certified before, we're going to reopen that and we're going to have that certifier go in, review that, and certify again. And that's where we would need the help of the primary effort coordinator and the effort coordinator to do that. When that happens, when we reopen it, the ecrt system will send out an automated email to let that person know, hey, you need to recertify. But we request the help of the PEC and the EC, because the certifier has 21 days to certify that statement after it's reopened. If it's not certified after that 21-day window, then once again, we would be looking to move salary and benefits for the sponsored projects on that statement to a non-sponsored source within the department. So important to get those recertified as well. That covers the two types of effort tasks that you'll see, and the ways to resolve those. There are a couple of unique circumstances that may happen within the ecrt system that would cause an effort statement to remain in a status that's not, or remain in a status other than certified. And two of those scenarios would be if you have someone who was overpaid in a period of performance January to June, and the doc pay to correct the overpayment was captured in July to December. Now you have your overpayment captured in one effort reporting period, and the doc pay happened in another. So you have one reporting period where salary is overstated. You have one reporting period where salary is understated. That's one scenario where we're going to have to do additional review to determine how to correct that. And another scenario is going to be folks with two effort statements. That's caused when someone moves from SHRA to EHRA classification or vice versa within that period of performance. The effort certification period understands that those two that the salary for those two different appointments need to be captured separately. And it does a really good job with that in entering the amounts correctly in there. What it has a difficult time doing is allocating that to the correct effort statement. So we'll often see that, something that actually should have been EHRA is put on the SHRA statement. So it throws off the percentages and the salary amounts and that type of thing. In both scenarios, we would have to do further review, and a manual adjustment will likely be required to ensure that that person is able to certify accurately. This is something that we could spend another hour talking about how to do that and what it looks like. So I'm not going to go into that. Hopefully we'll cover that at some point down the road in one of these sessions, because it would be good for everyone to know that. But if you run into either one of those scenarios, something looks odd on the effort statement, you can always email our shared inbox, ecert_help@unc.edu. Our team monitors that daily, and more often than that during the certification period. So anything that comes up, email us and we'll help you make sure we get those certified correctly. And that covers my presentation. So any questions?
Hi, JR. So I'm a business officer with student affairs. We have very few actual sponsored projects with people working on them. But because we work with undergrads quite a lot, we have literally dozens that are working on projects around campus. So they pop up in our eCert list. It's my understanding that we aren't responsible for them, correct? I just, whenever you see that number and it's like you have 40, eCert things to sign off on, but maybe 2 of them are actually for one of our departments. I just want to make sure that we're not making trouble.
Right. So this is something that commonly happens, especially with undergrad students or other folks who might not have their information updated in Backbone, or which is where eCert looks at that to place them in a department. So as far as being able to adjust that, there's no way for us to adjust it after the certification period starts, or there's really no way for us to adjust that at all, because that would have to be adjusted by that particular person in the global directory. As far as undergraduate students and who's responsible for those, so if we have someone that didn't certify their effort statement, and we see that, okay, this person, their appointment is to this department, but they're working on an award in this department, so they're showing up over here. We're going to bring those 2 departments together and determine who's going to cover the salary and benefits for that person on a non-sponsor source. So it would really come down to a discussion between the 2 departments on who's going to cover that. So it's best to try to work with those folks and get them to certify for that reason, because you don't want to leave it up to chance, at least in my opinion. But we have also worked with folks in that scenario before to say, we can, because I know you can't see some of the stuff for those folks, right? And that's the difficulty, is that you can't see everything. So what we often try to do is we would try to connect you with the primary effort coordinator for the award that they're paid on, and put you both in the same email and say, hey, can we all put our heads together and try to get these people to certify? And we'd all try to help each other get it done, because I understand it's a burden on you, but it's also something that it's difficult to fix, because it's all based off of the way eCert looks at the directory. So that's what we would try to do. And if you want to send us an email and say, hey, here's the people that we need help with, can you link us up with the primary coordinator? for that award, we can do that and try to help you that way.
Thank you.
Yep.
A semi-related question, sorry if I can. With undergraduate students, obviously that last effort period is certified after they've graduated. Who do you recommend is their proxy? Is it like the supervisor, the PI? That comes up every year.
So for someone to certify as a proxy for those individuals, we like it to be a person who has firsthand knowledge of the work they performed on the award. So, if their supervisor is perhaps not the person that manages or knows about the award they worked on, we would want it to be the PI because they know exactly what they did on the award. But if the supervisor is the PI or is a lab manager or something like that, and they know what they've done on the award, we'd be more than happy to assign either one, just as long as they understand what's going on and what the person actually did.
Anybody else?
Thanks, everybody.